we've had people here in Vegas, and I've seen it other places too online, of people telling other people, lay people mostly, but we've had other like midwives and doulas telling people to check their kids out of NICU. And I'm like, oh my gosh, why would you do that? And it's like, I'm pretty sure the NICU, because it's almost like there's these people that think NICU's holding your kid from you, but it's like, no, they want your kid to be able to eat and breathe and, function as a normal kid, another normal baby. But it just drives me kind of crazy when I see these people that are like, just check your kid right out of NICU. Like, what? Like, no, don't check your kid out of NICU. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, no.
Yeah. And for me, that's education, right? That's up to the team to be talking to those parents. Why is your kid here? What brought you here in the first place, right? Like, and usually it's those kids that are maybe okay, we had a maternal fever, mom was ruptured 48 hours. We're seeing she's at risk for choreo, but they're not seeing the baby sick, right? And so they're like, oh, we should just take the baby out of the NICU. Well, babies used to die of sepsis a lot. So, we're going to treat, we're going to look for infection markers and we're going to treat. And there is a standard for antibiotic treatment, just like a standard for strep throat. You're going to take your antibiotic X amount of days. So if we're treating you for choreo, we're going to give you IV antibiotics X amount of days, right? So I think those people need to have a conversation with their attending, their nurse practitioner, and go, this is why you're here. And if we have somebody like that and they still insist on leaving AMA, you better believe that the police and CPS are going to show up on your door. You're going to be investigated because that's neglect. Ignorance has now turned into neglect.
Yeah. We've had that locally, is that family is trying to get their kids out so badly, and the doctors are trying to explain it, the nurses are everybody's trying to explain like why your kid is here and why you need to leave your kid here for right now. And they're not trying to, it's nothing punishment to the parents, but it's like your kid needs to stay here for a little bit longer to get well. And yes, they've had to call the cops, and they've had to have like CPS and the cops come right to the hospital to try to like intervene, to be like, you gotta, like, we have to work this out and you have to kind of understand what's going on. And it's a sad situation that when it gets that far, but it does, I have heard of it happening, unfortunately.
Yeah. One of our charge nurses, not our charge nurses, one of our managers on a unit when I was a baby nurse, and we were talking about it, and she goes, parents have this fallacy that that their children belong to you. She goes, they don't. She goes, they belong to the state. She goes, I hate to say that, but we are required to protect these children. That is the law. So if you're going to do things that, even though you feel is in the best interest of your child, but is not protecting your child under social norms, medical norms, or whatever, that child really doesn't belong to you. The state or the county will come in to dictate that care for that child. And that's just how our system is set up. So unless you live completely off the grid in a trailer with nothing, the state and the county have the right to come in to take care of your child, and they will get a court order to do so. So you can buck the system only so far, and if it becomes to the detriment of your child, you're going to lose. You're going to lose.
Yeah.
So, you really have to think about these things.
Yeah.
And I feel like the natural community they encourage people to make some really dumb decisions.
Yeah. Because once CPS is involved, they're going to keep checking up on you, because they got to make sure that your baby is in a safe environment, make sure that you're taking care of them properly. Like, now you're kind of on their radar of like, and it just you listening to somebody to try to check your baby out of NICU early, like you're still on their radar now. Like, they're going to be keeping an eye on you. And it's like, just
or they may ignore you for that one, but then you have another baby, right? And now they have another history, right? So you have to pick your battles. I mean, if you have to stay in the NICU for 2 weeks for antibiotics, yeah, it's hard. Yeah, it sucks. It is what it is. But in the relative scheme of things, 2 weeks is not it's a big deal in the moment, but when you're looking back, you know.
Yeah. 2 weeks isn't that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's so interesting that just the social behind it, because then you have these parents that are living in the NICU for months, like in months and months and months, because their kids have cardiac disease or they have gut issues and they're having multiple surgeries. And I will tell you, the ones that usually have the hardest time coping are the ones that are there for simple reasons. Like, look around you. Look around you. Because so our NICU isn't private rooms. Like, you have a super, super sick kid with all this equipment around them next to your baby that's there for choreo. And you're like flipping out because you got to have 7 days of antibiotics. Look around you. Like, I know it's hard in the moment to step away, but I would encourage you to do that. You know, some people would love to have just a 2-week stay in the NICU or 3 days or whatever it is, you know, that short little visit. I'd rather have had a NICU visit than to bury a baby.
Yeah.
That's perception. That's the I have. I would have done anything to have a NICU baby versus what I had.
As long as it takes. Yeah. As long as it takes.
I would have had 1,000 C-sections.
Yeah. Same.
Than to go through the emotional trauma that I went through in burying my child.
Yeah. I am right there with you 100%. Right there.
If only
right next to each other going
through it now.
It's so hard because you want to say, like, how do you get people to see that perspective without them actually going through that? Like, how do you, because it is so important. It's such important perspective. It's such important perspective, but obviously,
you know what? I try to validate them. Like, if I have a mom that's coming in and her baby's here for hyperbilly and it wasn't her plan and she didn't want to use pacifiers and she didn't want to use formula, I'm like, I get it. This is not what you plan. I am so sad that you're having to go through this. I go, but it's gonna be okay. And in a year, you're gonna have a screaming toddler. And I know it's not what you want, but we have to do what's best for your child, you know? So you're gonna do what you need to do to get out of here as fast as you can. And that's how I put it. And I'm like, I get it. I understand. Like, I would have never thought I would ever feed as much formula in my life that I feed now as a formal La Leche league leader, right? Ever. But now I'm a huge advocate is fed is best. Like, if you have to give your baby formula in order to get that bilirubin down so that you can get out of here sooner, that is what you need to do. And you can work on breastfeeding when you get home. Yeah. It's a numbers game in the NICU. We need so much in, so much out, right? So we're going to protect your milk supply as best we can so we can get you out of here as fast as we can. So I try to empathize and educate, you know, I get it. I get it. And I also, you know, like pacifiers. Oh, I don't want to use pacifier. Like, you cannot physically be in the NICU for 24 hours a day. You can't. We are not set up to where you can stay the night. We have 6 babies in every room. You are not allowed to sleep at the bedside. You can't. So you do what you can. And some people find this very calloused, but I do say this, and I don't mean it in a callous way, but you have the best babysitters you will ever have in your entire parenting career right now, right? You can't afford us outside the hospital. So go home, eat some good food, take a hot shower, and sleep. And you are going to feel so much better. Come back tomorrow, bring me your milk, right? And you're going to feel like a whole new mom. You're going to feel like a warrior princess, right? And let me take care of your baby, right? And come back. And then tomorrow you're going to come and visit for 8 hours and you're going to snuggle and you're going to do everything that you can. And then you're going to go home again. And you're going to eat good food and get good sleep. And you're going to do this for 5 to 7 days. And you're going to feel like a woman, like a power woman when you take this baby home. And then you're going to hit sleep deprivation. But use us.
It's so true. Honestly, so many people have asked me, they've said like, when you had your second C-section because you had your uterine rupture, was your recovery so much worse? And I mean, like, that actual event was very painful and all of that, but the recovery, no, like I was forced to just take care of myself, and I wasn't just instantly taking care of an infant because I couldn't. So I remember telling myself kind of like, yes, you know what, he's in good hands. And I spent a good chunk of my day there, but I would, when I was still hospitalized, go back to my hospital room and rest, take breaks and go rest. And I would like eat meals and drink fluids and put my feet up and take care of my incision and go home and sleep once I was discharged. And nope, my recovery was quite a bit better because I actually was able to take care of myself and rest and do those things. So people would ask me that, and I was like, no, it's, I wish I didn't have to have a baby in the NICU to have made that be the case. But like, I wish the circumstances had been different, but my recovery was night and day easier because I just wasn't up, 18 of 19, 20 out of 24 hours caring for a baby 24 hours out of having surgery.
Mhm. Yeah. And I even tell my
So
moms who
true.
are very low on milk supply, I'm like, you need a 6-hour stretch of sleep. 6 hours, midnight to 6 a.m. You're going to skip that middle pumping. Your milk supply isn't going to go away if you get some REM sleep. If anything, it's going to be better, right? Because you got that hormone action of having deep sleep. So, yes, being in the NICU sucks. Yes, it's really hard. Yes, it's really painful. But look for the things that make it different in a positive, right? It's never positive to be separated from your baby. That's not what I'm saying. But take advantage of that time where you leave at 9 o'clock at night, get home by 10, in bed by midnight, and sleep and come back the next morning. You're going to feel so much better, and you're going to be able to help me take care of your baby when you're there. You're not going to be falling asleep at the bedside. And I'm not going to say you can't do that here. I'm so sorry, but we don't allow you to sleep at the bedside because it's a risk. It's a risk. So we can't have you sleeping here. So if you go and do those things, it's going to be better for all of us.